Hello, everybody. It has become a common trend to see a child given a tablet or a phone to stay occupied while shopping, eating, or for leisurely use. Often, people dismiss a parent as lazy or uninvolved when doing so. However, we rarely consider how that screen time specifically affects development, especially among children with autism, where its impact can be much more complex. I have worked as an ABA therapist for the past 4 years and have been a special needs parent for 12. In my work, I help families reduce maladaptive behaviors by identifying and implementing replacement behaviors. Psychologist Brian Iwata developed a widely accepted understanding that behavior is often maintained by four functions: escape, access to tangibles, attention, and sensory stimulation. Since all four of these functions can be related to screen time, it is easy to view digital devices as purely negative for children. From personal experience, I have seen how my daughter can become aggressive when transitioning away from her iPad. Because of situations like this, it can be difficult to see a positive side to screen use. However, recent research provides a more balanced perspective, highlighting both the benefits and the potential downsides of screen time. Throughout this presentation, I will share new research, data, and personal observations to help gain a better understanding of the pros and cons of having access to screen time. Extended screen usage has reached a level of stigmatization that has made it thoroughly challenging to see any sense of positivity of having access to electronic devices. A 2024 research article by the distinguished peer-reviewed medical journal JAMA Pediatrics states, autism spectrum disorder risk was significantly greater in children with more than 14 hours of weekly screen time compared with children with less than 14 hours of weekly screen time by 2 years old. When I first read this quote, I found it hard to believe. How could a device give an individual a developmental disorder? I then took into consideration that people will use whatever they can as a scapegoat to navigate through tough situations. AutismSpeaks.org states that autism is caused by various genetic and teratogens in the environment. With this being said, I do not agree that extended screen usage can lead to an autism diagnosis. Yet having direct access to an endless amount of content filled with flashing lights, high-pitched voices, and digitally processed images could overstimulate our nervous system and make one feel irritated when that device is removed, especially without warning. I've seen it with my own eyes. There have been countless times that I had to take away my daughter's iPad, and I often did so without warning, failing to take her feelings into consideration. I felt comfortable removing it because for many years I saw it as a toy rather than an anchor to sustain a level of comfort, as well as being a form of communication. The comfort arrives from having a sense of control. Children have very little control over their life. They rarely get to choose the foods they get to eat. They often must sleep at specific times and must obey the rules at school to avoid harsh consequences. Not having control over what you want to eat for dinner might be frustrating, but what if you didn't have control of your own voice? There are many individuals who navigate through many challenges due to being unable to speak. My daughter Ariana's diagnosis of cerebral palsy has caused her to live with this obstacle. Although she is unable to speak, she has a ton to say and communicate through an augmentative and alternative communication device. This device is accessed through an application on her iPad. With several taps of icons, she is able to say whatever she needs to say. Her AAC device has allowed her to socialize, excel in school, and live a productive life. This would be impossible to obtain if she did not have access to screens. Seeing how my daughter functionally uses her iPad has made me become more flexible with extended usage. These days, I rarely ever remove her iPad without a warning. Along with being able to speak, my daughter's iPad gives me the comfort of always knowing where she is through the Find My app. She is also able to text her family, friends, and create art. My daughter prefers to draw on her tablet because that paper, when she's drawing on paper, we make mistakes and it's hard to be able to erase. The iPad gives her the flexibility and the options to be able to create whatever her heart desires, making it a more enjoyable experience. A recent article from the National Library of Medicine states autistic people tend to have a longer daily screen use and are at higher risk of screen addiction compared to non-autistic individuals. Since we are not always able to identify if someone is autistic based off appearance, who are we to judge a child for having access to a device? What if the child is using their electronic device to communicate or to regulate their emotions after a meltdown? Although having to resort to staring at a screen is most certainly not the best form of coping, devices could be used as a stepping stone to develop new and more functional ways of self-soothing. One of the largest barriers children on the spectrum face when building their foundation of education is the inability to find comfort and stability in the classroom. A recent article from the National Library of Medicine states when specific needs are not addressed, they often result in interruptions during the classroom that decreases learning opportunities not only for the children with autism, but for the rest of the classroom as well. If children who are nonverbal have access to tools to strengthen their education through alternative communication, the ability to feel included in a classroom increases. When we feel accepted, we flourish. Although extended screen usage has negative connotations, such as being addicting, can make people feel unmotivated to have face-to-face interactions, etc., electronic devices could open the door to functional communication, as well as give family members and loved ones the opportunity to know our locations at all times, as well as provide people with the opportunity to learn through alternative means. Extended screen time most certainly has its downsides, but next time you see a parent handing their child an iPad, try not to jump to the conclusion that the parent is being lazy and try to conceptualize the bigger picture. My name is Benjamin Stern. Thank you for your time.
Good job, Ben.
Yes.